Addison, Aiden, Michael, Trinity, Will. Consider yourself warned. You will fall in love with the children you are about to meet. Hello, I'm Ilona Carson. For years, they were considered medical mysteries, but now these children are truly faces of hope.
Faces of Hope, brought to you by Texas Children's Hospital. What's your promise?
Lace Ann Mitchell's family album differs from most.
This is a picture of Stacy. It was taken 2 weeks before she died. She was in the NICU for 6.5 months.
The Mitchells' firstborn daughter died from a mysterious illness characterized by the inability to swallow, difficulty breathing, low muscle tone, and contracted fingers.
And then I have pictures of Michael, which are eerily similar to pictures of Stacy. He was born without any muscle tone in his entire body. He turned blue and started coding when they gave him his first bottle.
Michael exhibited the same symptoms as Stacy. Doctors performed test after test, all inconclusive. Baby Michael was a medical mystery. Feeling alone and isolated, the Mitchells began searching for answers. Little did they know, across the country, another family was living the same nightmare. Burlington, Kansas, a quaint, sleepy, small town, appears from a sea of cornfields, a town where farming, football, and family reign.
Trinity is our oldest. She's 13. She's our sporty, little more laid back, game out on video games, play basketball with the boys, that kind of thing. Not really into anything girly. Trinity is nonverbal, but she walks, runs, rides her bike.
I'm gonna put water in it.
Addie is our youngest. She's 10, and she is sassy.
We take the camera inside.
Addison does not stop talking. She still has her wheelchair. She's just learning to walk.
Hi.
Where one lacks, the other makes up 100%. So it's almost like they are two halves of a whole.
Oh, yay! Yay!
They get excited.
They're just both full of tons of energy and always so happy.
But like the Mitchells, the Hanners' childhood keepsakes aren't what one might expect.
This was her very first little hospital wristband, her first blood pressure cuff, a couple of her first hospital hats.
Take us back to when you were pregnant with Trinity.
I only gained 13 pounds and tried going into labor at 28 weeks. We held out till 32. After birth, they knew something wasn't quite right. Like, she was completely purple blue from head to toe. They started, noticing other things, like some of the joints in her fingers were fixed, like couldn't open her hands straight.
No muscle tone, difficulty breathing, and Trinity couldn't swallow. 3 months passed before Hannah and Steve could bring their daughter home.
We were home 5.5 hours and she quit breathing, and Steve and my brother had to do CPR as I was calling 911.
2 more months in the hospital, then home, but not without
monitors, feeding tube, oxygen. We lived in one of the apartments downtown above those businesses and stuff on the main, on Neosho. And so we would have to carry her in her car seat, an oxygen tank, an oxygen monitor, a feeding bag, all these cords like going to her. And then you look down like 3 flights of stairs. There was a lot of things going around town. People are, well, she was an alcoholic the entire time she was on bed rest. I had a teacher that I was very close with at the high school, so I wanted to go visit her and take Trinity up. I'm 19. I have this child that has oxygen and monitors and a feeding pump, and I have all of this wrapped around me, and I'm like walking through. I'm a proud mom. I'm a first-time mom. Like, I'm doing this, and go in to show my teacher and another teacher had walked up and peered into her carrier and straight looked at me and said, "What kind of drugs do you do while you're pregnant to cause that?" I didn't give him anything. I gave him DNA.
After months of medical testing,
They didn't have any answers.
Yeah, there's several different
It's an enigma
syndromes.
case.
and why doctors approved Hannah trying for a second baby.
It's surely just a fluke deal. There's no reason you guys, should worry.
Wrong. The Hanner's second daughter was also born prematurely with low muscle tone, inability to swallow, and difficulty breathing.
Addie was more medically fragile than Trinity.
Within her first year, a collapsed lung, and then a life-threatening perforated ulcer.
So much stomach acid had spewed out into her body cavity and chemically burned all the organs inside her. They said it would have been the equivalent of dipping 2/3 of her body into a boiling pot of water. Her skin was literally rotting off of the sutures, and because her whole body was just septic, and they had to go cut out all that dead tissue, and then they put a wound back on, and that thing just constantly sucked infection out of her for like a month. She was a sick little girl. He didn't think that this little tiny thing had that much fight in her. She's persistent.
The Hanners' lives now consumed by hospitals and doctor's appointments in their desperate and lonely search for answers.
We went for 10 years not thinking that we were ever going to hear anything, to all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I got a message at 4 o'clock in the morning. There's another mom. Oh my gosh, Lace Mitchell, she's from Houston. Oh my gosh, she's absolutely amazing.
When Michael Mitchell was born,
They didn't think he would live past 2 or 3 years old.
today Michael is a 17-year-old who loves football, horses, his iPad, and music.
He doesn't have speech because his vocal cords are paralyzed. He does sign and communicate through sign language. He does a lot of things that we were told he would never do. For instance, when he was about a year old, or about 18 months old, and he was sitting up, one of the doctors saw him and said, "He's sitting up." We didn't think he could do that. When he was 3 and learning to walk, and the doctor stopped to check his chart to make sure he was looking at the right patient.
And when Michael turned 13, a diagnosis. Michael was only one of a handful of patients identified with Schaaf-Yang syndrome. It's a rare genetic disorder on the autism spectrum discovered by Dr. Christian Schaaf at the Jan and Dan Duncan Neurological Research Institute at Texas Children's Hospital.
Every single project that we work on started in the clinic, who were unsolved mysteries at the time. And then through genetic testing, we were able to identify the potential underlying causes.
And I kept watching, articles, watching to see if anybody else was coming up, through the forums. Because of HIPAA laws, Dr. Schaaf can't necessarily tell me who's out there. So I had contacted him and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting this Facebook page. What do you think?" And Dr. Schaaf, gave me the go-ahead and said, absolutely. And now, here it is, 2017, and we have over 100 members that are around the world.
Including the Hanners, who traveled from Kansas to Houston to meet Dr. Schaaf and the Mitchells.
It was one of those overwhelming, oh my gosh, your girls do look just like Michael. Michael looks just like your girls. You really are real, kind of.
Lace and I get into the conversations, well, does she do this? I'm like, yeah, does he do this? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
The feeding tubes, oxygen tanks, stair lifts, wheelchair ramps, other hospital equipment, they're a part of everyday life for these families, but that's okay because they're no longer alone.
Hannah always says we have a tribe now.
A tribe that continues to grow.
You say hi.
At this summer's first Schaaf-Yang family conference,
Oh, wow.
the Hanners realized their daughters were not the only surviving siblings with the disease.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
I've waited 13 years for this.
A Canadian family with daughters the same age with the same syndrome.
Just seeing the girls together, and they say, you know, that everybody has a twin somewhere in the world, and it's like I kind of feel like we found our twin family.
It's difficult for me. I don't have a word for this.
While every day is a challenge for all of these families, now there's an opportunity to help new members of the tribe, parents of recently diagnosed Schaaf-Yang children.
Remember to breathe. Like, enjoy what you have. They're such happy kids, like all of them. Like every picture you see, they're all cheesing out, or just they all have their own fun little quirky personalities, and that's rare these days.
It's a sticker one.
A lot of moms that I'm friends with, and they're like, oh my gosh, back to school. You know, we have algebra this year, or we have this year, and some of the girls in Trinity's grade are like dating, and I don't have to deal with that either. And I'm like, we're still ABCs and milk breaks. We get to play
This is big.
for the rest of their life. Like, they're always gonna be innocent.
Unlike the Hanner girls and Michael Mitchell, Will Herndon and Aiden Maxwell did have normal childhoods for a while. Things changed for Will when he turned 6.
Here's me when I caught a fish.
For Aiden, much earlier. Aiden was a very happy, active little boy who by 1.5 was already speaking simple sentences. Just before he turned 2, however, things changed. Aiden started having seizures, which severely impaired his development.
He went back to no speech, and he was destructive. He would just tear stuff down, and there's no mama, I love you anymore. It was gone because of one mutated gene, which is more devastating. Having a child that's born broken or watching your child become broken.
Aiden was diagnosed with tuberous sclerosis. It's a genetic disorder with epilepsy-type syndromes that causes tumors to form in different organs, including the brain.
And as a mom, you're challenged every single day of your life. You don't get a break from that.
Yeah, he went over to my mom's house and did some really crazy things. He got in her washing machine and she can't get him out. My mom said she was relating the story to a friend, and her friend said, yes, but Georgia, your daughter has to do that every day. Every day she lives that. You did that once.
You have to take it day by day and look for the small victories, I guess.
You do. You do.
One of those small victories, Aiden was one of 10 children chosen to participate in a Duncan Neurological Institute drug trial. Researchers believed an existing cancer drug could help these children.
So we gave the drug to the mice and they stopped having seizures, and the results were spectacular. Just like in the mice, the kids stopped having seizures. Not every child became seizure-free, but the vast majority had decreases in seizures, and 4 of them became seizure-free.
He actually went seizure-free for I think a good 2 years. Within 6 months of being on the trial, his speech was clearer. He can read, he can do math.
Because speech is still limited, Aiden's knack for online children's gaming helps him connect to other children.
He can tell you all about the pros and cons of different platforms and which games and who the characters are.
Always by his side, his dog Bon Bon.
He loves me. Every time I always cuddle.
Aiden's seizures returned, but they're not as frequent, and a new surgical trial is in the works.
And we think Aiden's a candidate. So I'm like,
oh,
wow, we're being courted, right? It's like getting drafted for the NFL.
Right.
My son is a neurological rock star.
What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you have any ideas?
I thought when I was out of college, I wanted to be a doctor, and an EEG doctor, by the way.
And then you can look in their brains and see what's going on?
Yes.
I got to talk to Dr. Swan, and it was very rewarding for me to get to look him in the face and shake his hand and say, "You have changed my son's life. Thank you for being the person willing to sit in the lab and think these things through and change people's lives."
Her advice to other parents?
Just take one day at a time and be thankful for what you do have. My son is sweet. My son is very caring. He loves me. He can tell me he loves me. And I know that there are people out there with children like Aiden who can't even hear a simple "I love you" from their son. So we are lucky.
Like Aiden, Will Herndon also had a normal childhood.
He was so happy all the time. Will has always loved animals. We call him the animal whisperer.
He loves driving. He's always had like a drift trike or one of those Razor scooters.
Always very, very active. And he got an award for the fastest legs in Texas because he was such a fast runner and he loved to run.
A loving older brother to Steele and Magnus.
He's a very affectionate brother. Always concerned. If he hears anything, he wants to make sure they're okay.
Now it's Will's brothers making sure he is okay. Shortly after Will turned 6.
We noticed that he was starting to have difficulty identifying the color of crayons. And then he lost his alphabet, like within the same couple days.
We thought he needed glasses, so we start on that.
Will was legally blind within a couple of months and then started having memory lapses.
I had made this comment of, "Tomorrow we're going to the movies." And he goes, "What's tomorrow?" And I said, "We know tomorrow's tomorrow and today's today." And he said, "No, what does tomorrow mean?" He also started kind of like utensils, like, "I need one of those things I eat with." "You mean a spoon?" Yeah, a spoon.
After months of testing, a life-shattering phone call.
And then when she said juvenile Batten disease, I can literally remember dropping to my knees in the kitchen. I don't know much about this disease. I just know it's really, really bad, and it's a brain disease. And so she basically read to me what the NIH statement was. An otherwise healthy child begins symptoms somewhere between the age of 5 and 10 with progressive vision loss, loss of cognitive skills, mobility. And I didn't catch during that conversation that it was fatal.
By the numbers, Batten disease is always fatal, often by the late teens or early 20s. Missy and Wayne refused to give up hope.
I sent out a prayer request by email. We attached this photo to it, and I just said, "Please pray for Will." There is no research that is happening, and we desperately need a cure for Batten disease.
The email led them to an Austin family whose daughter also had the disease. The family started a foundation, and within a year, they raised $2.5 million to form a Batten disease research team at the Jan and Dan Duncan Neurological Research Institute at Texas Children's Hospital. The only one of its kind in the world, the NRI fosters collaboration from the most brilliant minds in the world with the goal of developing treatments for childhood neurological diseases.
This institute could not have happened without philanthropic support. To help those that we recruit take some risks, chart new territories, and push the envelope on science. At the end of the day, it's the people. If you have the right people, discoveries would happen.
Including an imminent Batten disease clinical trial.
This team has discovered a protein that is responsible for clearing, if you will, or the metabolic garbage waste in our cells. Dr. Sardiello has recently discovered a way to increase the activity of that protein, make it rev up so that the cell can make more lysosome and hopefully help clear the excessive debris that's accumulating in Batten disease. And it has given a beautiful result, and he hopes now that he will take this treatment for testing in human to see if he can slow the degeneration or even prevent it.
That's a very good wow.
Meanwhile, Will turns 15 this month.
He loves running a zoo.
Rhino. Orangutan.
His brain cells are dying at about 4.6% a year. That's a lot.
I think cognitively, he's very much like a 6 or 7 year old.
Academics are not his strong suit. I mean, he couldn't add 1 and 1 to save his life. He has seizures. He's definitely starting to have some mobility issues.
I got him when he was a puppy.
Of course, his vision is almost completely gone.
His interests are monster trucks.
Alien, laser.
It's a little like Groundhog Day around here. Same questions from the moment he gets up in the morning to the time he goes to bed.
This is Bear's thought.
He's predictable.
Always happy, always smiling. Very rarely is he upset. He doesn't know what it is to be mad or angry or to hate.
It's very inspiring. Very inspiring to live with somebody who, when they wake up, they can't see anything and truly don't know what's in front of them, don't know what their day holds for them and how they're going to feel, but yet still just plugs straight away, and that's just what he does. He really is quite an inspiration for our family.
Faces of Hope, brought to you by Texas Children's Hospital. What's your promise?
There's the man of the hour.
What's your name?
Can I step in? Ophélie.
Ophélie?
Yes.
Every doctor at the Jan and Dan Duncan Neurological Research Institute and Texas Children's Hospital will tell you. It starts with one child, one patient they refuse to give up on.
They've seen the people affected with these diseases, and they're so inspired, so they feel the clock they're racing against is how can I get there faster because I really want to help these people. That's really, to me, for all of us, is what's driving us every day.
Everybody in the lab works really with no pause and no vacation, no, everybody's completely committed to this. Everybody's feeling the pressure because, we are aware that this is a race against time. Almost everybody's confident then, it's just a matter of a few years. A lot of genetic diseases could be literally cured.
These doctors constantly search for answers, including therapies to help manage symptoms.
We've come to understand that patients with Schaff-Yang syndrome have a deficiency in growth hormone.
Soon after Dr. Schaff suggested growth hormone therapy for Trinity Hanner, this before and after picture arrived.
So she used to be overweight. She was only able to walk very short distances. And within a few months, her body composition has changed. She has more lean body mass. She's able to walk. She has more strength. And it's really made a tremendous difference in regards of quality of life for her and the entire family.
She had gone from not even to pedaling her bike, being able to pedal it a full rotation, like she would just pump it back and forth to make it go. Now she's riding 2 miles and we're trying to jog behind her. Like, slow down.
Can you give me a kiss?
Small victories do count.
Even though this girl is not cured and she still has intellectual disability and she still has autism, we've already made a tremendous difference because now she has more strength, she's more healthy. For other situations, children may not be able to talk in full sentences, but if we can get them to a stage where for the first time after 10-15 years they can say, "I love you, mommy," that is a dramatic difference for that particular family.
And why these children are indeed faces of hope.